the second session of the live. We have moved from the first session and moving into the second session now of the live with Mr. Parpiani. We're just waiting for him to join back. Please give us a few. Thank you for joining us back, Mr. Parpiani. It was a very wonderful last 1 hour that we had, which is the reason why we are now moving into the second. In fact, we have a fairly good number of viewers, just waiting to very serious viewers who are listening to what you have to say about your career and your and some of the questions that I have for you. So you mentioned that being sensitive, you're a very sensitive individual. I completely agree. You mentioned in particular about the riots that you photographed. One of the most incredible images to come out of the riots has been the image of the lady carrying her belongings and running, and let me just, for the viewers who may not have seen this photograph, just let me describe the situation. There's this woman who is carrying a big bundle on her head, in her other arm, in her other hand, she is carrying a suitcase. Okay, and she's running on the street. She's running across in the street. You can clearly make out her face and the worry lines on her forehead. I remember that photograph very, very clearly because of her expression on her face. And in the background, you can see a lot of people who are actually also running, and there are two pillars of smoke that is coming out in the background. I remember that this photograph very, very clearly. Another photograph that I remember very, very clearly is of our ex-Prime Minister, late Prime Minister, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, who was, I think, visiting Bhiwandi, if I'm not mistaken, the right-affected areas in Bhiwandi. And I remember that incredible photograph that Mr. Parpiani had shot of her meeting some of the riot-affected people. At first glance, when you look at the photo, because the first thing that you obviously see is Mrs. Indira Gandhi's face. You would see her face and the look of disgust on her face. So there's this expression of disgust on her face, and you're wondering, why is the Prime Minister of the country disgusted when she's around poor people, riot-affected people? And then when you examine the photo a little closer, you will find that there is one of the ladies who's carrying a small child, pinching the child so that the child cries, in front of Indira Gandhi. So that's the scene in the photo, and it was perfectly captured, by Mr. Parpiani. So these are some of the moments that, very iconic moments that I remember of Mr. Parpiani's photojournalism, which also brings me to the next question. So there was this one statement that you made in an interview, in fact, with Better Photography many years back. You mentioned in that interview that all that is required for good photojournalism is the truth, and nothing more than that truth. The photo does not need embellishments. You don't need to make the photo look interesting. All you need is the truth. You mentioned this once in an interview. Can you elaborate on that? Do you still believe that that is the case?
You see, I believe you are referring to the adding the subject to the pictures.
That's right. So what you had, in terms of depicting the subject or talking about the subject in the pictures, you had mentioned that what is needed is the truth and nothing more than the truth. What is required is not embellishment. You don't need to change the angle. You don't need to, what you need to do is to focus on the real truth of the situation, and that is good photojournalism.
Yes, I have gone on a news assignment and I am covering something. My camera will see only what is seen there. I will not tell X, Y, Z that please come in the frame and do this, or you walk from right to left, or you bring a glass of water for the person who has met in the accident. No, I will not do any such of kind, or I will not play any arranged pictures. That what truthfully has come in the front of camera will get clicked with my finger. So that is my big thing. And the Indira Gandhi picture which you mentioned is a very good example that at the refugee camp, one lady is crying very badly in front of Mrs. Gandhi to get her sympathy. But in her hands there is a small child. In her hand there is a small child. And the child is not crying. The child is looking at Mrs. Gandhi, that who's come to our house, who's come
Oh
here.
wow. Okay. Right.
So this picture you are seeing, but you see
Right.
the lady is the pinching the hands of the child so that the child can cry, child should
Right.
cry. Mrs. Gandhi has noticed the game being played there. But the next day when I published the picture, my other fellow journalist, obviously this was a Mrs. Gandhi's visit, so other photographers were around me. So they asked me, when did you click this picture? I said, when you were coming up to me. So when I'm clicking, and my eyes, one eye is shut, the other eye is totally focused on my viewfinder, and it goes clicking. Remember, those there no water drive cameras.
Right.
It was
It was
Nikon
one
and
single frame. It was one single frame. It was entirely analog and with film.
yes, 1984, or 1982, sorry, yes. Then I want to also show you the riot picture of the Asalpa village.
Right.
Right now,
That was the image that I was talking about.
that's my son Kashish is helping me out.
Oh, okay. Kashish, can you hold the camera a little further behind because it's not being focused? Just hold the
Okay.
camera a little further behind. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
This is the Asalpa fire. During the riot, one chemical godown was set on fire in Asalpa village, Ghatopar, and the people living around there rushed, and this lady is one of them, rushing with her belongings to safer place there because those chemical godowns had a big drums, and big drums were bursting and going as far as 60, 70 feet in the height and falling all around. So there was total panic there. And while I was entering that place and from far I saw that she running, immediately I clicked the frame. But let me also tell you that after 8, 10 days, I was worried where this woman must have gone. And I again said, let me take a chakkar. I might find a picture, some different picture after a week. So one morning I went there and I found the lady was back in her home, and it is a small one-room tenement there, and she was giving a bath to his son to send him to the school. So the things were pretty settled down within 2, 3 days in that area.
Right.
Yes.
So I think that's one. It's interesting that you mentioned that you went back, and I think this is something that you mentioned even with other incidences with others of your subjects. You went back to check on them after the photo was taken. You went back to see what had happened to them, whether they were okay after you made the picture. So that is something that is actually quite rare and a wonderful thing that you kept doing. It's something that is rare nowadays, I think, with photojournalists. So we have Prakash Tilokani, who has just joined. And Prakash Tilokani, as you know, is one of the leading wedding photographers of the country. And he has a question. Sir, looking back to your journey, how do you feel? Have you got what you deserve? Did you get more than what you deserved or less than what you deserved? This is an interesting question that just popped up on the screen from Prakash. So, what do you feel? It's a good question that I would also like to ask you.
See, if you think of any human being, even what Tata Birlas have got, they are not satisfied. But in last 1 month, what I am sitting back at home, going back through my journey, going back through my old pictures, thinking about what should I do, what should I do to get back to the NCPA gallery back in the full form as it was. So these are the only things are in my priority on my mind, because I am at home at the age of 70. I don't want to risk myself and move. Although I went to Bhopal gas tragedy and I don't, but at the age of 70, I don't want to cover this corona for the, especially on the health issue fight. But as far as coming to Prakash's question, yes, people are never satisfied what they have got, but in last 1 month, I have realized that in my life, I have got more than what I deserve. I had a wonderful guru like Professor Pillai. I had a wonderful newspaper barons from the Ramnath Goenka, Vivek Goenka to Tariq Ansari. And now the big gentleman, Mr. Santok, whom we have met also at NCPA. So my gratitudes are there now. I am quite well satisfied and contented. I am very, very happy person now for what all I have achieved so far. And what I have achieved has come on my way. I just keep on doing my work. I worship my work. As I told you, in whether it is photojournalism days or it is the NCPA days, and when we exhibit anything, I try my best to promote it. And whenever there is no show, especially people in monsoon don't prefer to do the shows, so I take out the pictures from our archive, salute the people like Kishore Parekh, salute Raghuveer Singh, salute Jyoti Bhatt, S. Paul. Yes, S. Paul has been my childhood favorite. So whoever's legends' works are with us, we keep on exhibiting in our gallery, irrespective whether I have a down footfall or no, but whoever lands up should not go back without seeing the pictures on the walls of the gallery. That's the man.
Absolutely. That's commendable, and that's really, really incredibly commendable.
Very
because what I was saying was that was commendable, because it doesn't matter if it's 5 people who look at the works of these masters or whether it is 100 people who look at the works of these masters. I think those works that are displayed will talk to anyone, and even if it's just 5 people or 5 pairs of eyes that see it, it is 5 people who are going back with a certain sensibility, with a certain idea in their minds, of a certain era. Coming to the exhibits, Mr. Parpiani, I have one immense request from you. You must do an exhibition of your work once more, of your lifetime brilliant work. Must happen, and it not for just 1 or 2 days. It must happen for an entire 10 days. And I think that it is time, and I think it is. You've been exhibiting the works of so many photographers and so many people. You must have an exhibition of your personal work filling each and every space in the gallery wall. So that is my earnest request to you. Kashish, if you are listening in, this must happen, and it must happen as soon as the COVID-19 opens up. As soon as this thing open up, please let's plan something. I think it is something that everyone would love to see. So because it is important that your works be appreciated by today's younger generation.
Yes, certainly, Mr. Madvin, I'll fulfill your request. I will give you a very, very wonderful show of mine, and I promise you it will happen in 2020.
Awesome. Excellent.
But before that, I have to feature this so many photographers currently running around all the cities of India, whether it is Gujarat or whether it is in the northern India or in Bihar or in Maharashtra, and documenting the corona virus effects on all of us, on the humanity. I will like to do their show first, and then comes Mukesh Parpiani. Yes, Mukesh Parpiani can wait.
Not for us. But yes, we take your point. As the head of the Piramal Gallery of NCPA, you have a responsibility to the other photographers who have signed up already. But please, this year you must have an exhibition that spans 10 days. Not just 1 or 2 days, but please 10 days. From one weekend to the next weekend. Where people can come and look at your work, and we might, and I would like to also make a small film on the exhibit and on you at that point of time. So because 50 years is a huge, incredible long journey, and I've seen the kind of quality of work that you have put out, over all these years. Now, I have one more question for you, and after that, there are a couple of questions that we'll accept from the audience as well. Okay, so the question is actually something that actually came earlier. I think Kamal Jain asked this question, as well as I think a couple of others asked the same question. Newspapers nowadays. I remember the time when you were the photo editor of newspapers, there were photographs, huge photographs on the first page. And these were not just any photograph. The photograph made sense. They were important photos on the first page. Even if you open the newspaper in the second and third pages, you could find photographs of merit. Okay, memorable photographs that we remember even today. Okay, but let me talk about the newspapers before the lockdown happened. Let me talk about the few months of newspapers. I don't remember a single photo that was published in some of these papers. The front page photo has gone completely missing. So what are your thoughts on newspaper journalism, photojournalism today? What needs to be done about it? Is it the sign of the times? Because viewers like me, I'm sure, and like a lot of people, would love to see important, good photos in the papers, but they're just not there. What would you like to say about that? Would you like to comment on that?
Yes, I will discuss this with you at a length. But just coming back to your point, I would like to show you a double spread in the Sunday Times of India, which is a 4-page edition by the India.com on 16th April 2020, exactly 20 years back. You can see these pictures on this spread on the inside of the Sunday Times. All these pictures are mine, and these pictures were downloaded by India.com from my photo CD, which I marketed in the year 2000. So
yeah, I remember this incident. I remember this incident.
So where do you find this now? You don't find it, nor do I find it, but because post what you call it, in sometime post 2000, when the dot-com was hitting the market, they said photojournalism is dead. We need celebrities, we need glamour, we need fashion, and we need parties at night to come on our pages. That's why the supplements like Bombay Times were started. But then very soon, the publishers of the newspaper started taking money for publishing those pictures on page one of such supplements. So they said, why we take street picture on page one? Why we take accident picture on page one? Why we need a prime minister on page one every time he comes? So I remember the days when even the prime minister was in Bombay and it was not featured on the page one. So there was a time, and it was time still there, that the marketing people dominates the editorial department. If marketing people have some picture which is benefit to get an ad or something, obviously they are obliged, and the news picture goes inside. And as I told you, the Vivek Goenka said that you know how much 1 square feet cost here? Sadiq Ansari said 4.5 lakh, you get a flat in Binder. Similarly, the publishers are telling, you know how much 6-column space on page one cost? No big pictures now. That's the space we need for advertisements. So this is the situation of the print media. What you and I or any photo editors or photojournalists or even the big editors can't do anything like that. So, but let me tell you, in last year in the gallery, lot of people again reminded me that photojournalism is dead. Why you are still pursuing the photojournalism in gallery? They shouted at me. I said, okay, just keep cool. Photojournalism is coming back. Even in one of my pamphlet, I said 2020 is going to be a year of photojournalism. And you have all photojournalists a year-long work on your platter now. Keep shooting. And now no more parties, no more film shootings, no more money coming in from the film stars. No more money coming from film star. You put me. So obviously, newspapers will have to publish the news pictures. They can't go blank, page one. There are no R.K. Lakshman now. So the picture is going to dominate once again. Take it from me. But yes, same responsibility stems from photojournalist side also. That yes, you bring the picture which deserves the page one. The picture which deserves the page one, whether it's a press conference or it is just a visit or it is a function, you must look around to find a picture after shooting the event picture. Shooting an event picture of the function. Like I will tell you that Rajiv Gandhi came to visit the Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan. Everybody shot the picture of the Rajiv Gandhi and the Frontier Gandhi and the doctors around him. I shot the picture. But I will say I will not crop that picture. Because there used to be a doctor who was very publicity hungry. Any event, when he sees the photojournalists around, he will see that he stands center of the attraction. If Rajiv is on one side, Khan Abdul Ghaffar sign other side, and he will send right in the center, so that next day he is on the newspapers. So I never wanted that picture, irrespective Rajiv came. So I waited. I said, okay, fine. If Frontier Gandhi is being discharged now, I will use only picture. I will only use the picture Frontier Gandhi leaving the hospital on a wheelchair. Forget. Maybe Rajiv Gandhi has other events in the city, so we'll cover that. But I don't want this person mixing into my picture. I cannot crop it. There was no Photoshop. And even if it is a Photoshop, why should I do it? I want my picture to be straight. But again,
Tell the story.
And again he was being wheeled out from the room. On adjoining room, there was a child born. The gentleman brought that child out and took the blessings of that child. Frontier Gandhi blessed him, and that made my page one picture. That made my page one picture. You have also published that picture in the Better Photography, and after 4 or 5 years I was covering municipal elections, and I was outside a counting center, and suddenly from a new moon one child comes and tries to pull a rifle off the top.
Oh
and
yeah.
my shutter clicked.
Oh, that was a wonderful photograph.
My shutter clicked. I never knew that it is the same child. After 10 minutes,
Oh. Okay.
After 10 minutes, father was searching. After father was searching for a daughter, he came and told me, Mukesh bhai, this is my same daughter, which you shot in Bombay Hospital with Frontier Gandhi. So when you worship your work, you keep on getting the wonderful pictures. And this picture also went on the coffee table book of Mumbai Police. They had hundreds of other.
Right. Absolutely, I remember that.
Yes.
I had no idea that it was the same child. Yes, you once did mention it, but it's an incredible story. That is the same child who was blessed by Frontier Gandhi, and that you had shot both the pictures at that, and that happens only when you are an involved photographer, when you are ready to accept what is happening. So there's a question by Naveen Krishnan who is asking you, what is your take on citizen journalism where everybody is equipped with a camera? Today, in fact, let me just add to that question a bit. Naveen, if you don't mind, I'll add to that question a bit. Today, what is happening is that there are agencies that are actually looking at all the cell phone photos that have been shot in the vicinity of a certain area, okay, where an event has occurred, and then they would rather use those photos, okay, rather than photojournalist photos because it is cheaper. So there is something like citizen journalism also, and everyone is equipped with a camera because of their cell phones. So what's your what would you like to say about that?
See, this citizen journalism is very active now, but in the earlier days also, when the mobile has just come new, the people started shooting the pictures with the mobile, and when we reached the news spots, my looking around was that yes, I have reached here, I have shot the picture, but if someone from around me, a panwala or a XYZ or a passerby, who was standing around has shot the picture before I came. And it did happen, and I did get those pictures which were more lively than of the pictures which I shot. So obviously we have used such pictures with due credit to him. So citizen journalism has to be encouraged. As I told you that we have given the journalists a small full pix camera, that in case you run into some pictures, please shoot, because in those days there was no mobile. So I welcome the citizen voice. It is a plus point.
Okay. Okay. We have a question here from a very common question.
Your voice is, audio is good.
I'm sorry, can you hear me? Am I audible?
No, not yet.
Okay. Just can you just hold on? I think. Please.
Am I audible now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so my accidentally I switched off my headphone. I think my mic. Right. So it's a quintessential question, especially in today's times. With what is happening with COVID-19 and what we've seen over the last few years has been that there's been a lot of photojournalists who've also been laid off. There have been a lot of layoffs. There's been a lot of turmoil in that particular area of photojournalism, especially news photojournalism. There have been the very senior people. Yes, they have continued, but it has become a little bit more difficult for younger photographers who want to enter into, let's say, photojournalism. But there are a lot of people who want to enter photojournalism because they believe in it, because they want to be photojournalists or documentary photographers. What would be a message to them?
See, the time is going to be tough, especially for those who are coming into and wants to become a photojournalist. There are going to be problems and problems and problems, both from the management of the newspaper as well as from on the field also. So obviously everybody will need a bread and butter. So those who want to become a photojournalist will have to do other activities also and ensure that you have to, and those who are already in employment, they will have to fight for their survival. You can't just overnight send a message on mail that 15 journalists are not required in our organization. You can't do that. You can't do that. So obviously, I'm sure the journalistic fraternity will rise to this occasion and will do the needful. I'm sure they will do something. We have to keep a patience.
Right. These are key professions. They're very important professions, as you mentioned. Going forward, photojournalism will again rise up and become an extremely important part of our lives. Mr. Parpiani, it has been a very wonderful session of interviews. Thank you so much for answering all the questions, not just my questions, but also the viewers' questions. It is my privilege to have you here. And as you've promised, we must, in the short run within this year, please let us see a wonderful exhibition from your side as well of your most iconic work. And any support that I can provide from Better Photography side to have this exhibition on and for your work to get publicly noticed by the rest of the world, especially the younger generation in today's times need to see your work. There is a disconnect, I believe, disconnect between the generations, there is a certain in-between generation like me, for instance, who have seen the old and who've seen the new, but today's young generation is pretty much disconnected with what the older generation has done. And so for them especially, it would be an amazing journey for them to go back and see the kind of work that has been done during the last 30 or 40 years.
I have a request to make that those journalists or any photographers who are documenting the current corona crisis should get in touch with me, and once the crisis gets over, I would like to compile an exhibitions to put up at the NCPA. So please be in touch with me either on Facebook or on my email or on my WhatsApp. My WhatsApp number is 810-800-3311 and my email is mukesh.ncpa@gmail.com. Thank you very much for bearing me for too long sessions.
No. Usually when the sessions are really, really interesting, we go into a second live because these are important sessions for us to understand, what went on in those days, what happened during those times, and to understand perspectives. And especially coming from you, we are going to have this session recorded and put up onto our stories, so that people can also see it and get ideas from this session. Again, to repeat what you just said, all the viewers, please take note that Mukesh Parpiani is organizing a special exhibition for COVID-19, and anybody who has made any kind of pictures during this time should write to Mr. Parpiani at Mukesh. I'm sorry, could you repeat the Gmail again, please?
Mukesh.ncpa@gmail.com.
So mukesh.ncpa@gmail.com. That is the email address, mukesh.ncpa@gmail.com. You can find this email address. You can also message Mr. Parpiani directly on his Instagram page, or if you're having an issue or difficulty getting any images across, you can also send emails to Better Photography at madhavan.pillai@betterphotography.in. I will definitely make sure that Mr. Parpiani has got it. So, Mr. Parpiani, thank you so much for having this wonderful live session with us. As I said, it is a real privilege and a real pleasure to have you on board with Better Photography. Please do take care, sir, and all the very best for the lockdown period. Thank you all the viewers as well for coming and joining in. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Good night.
Good night.